My name's Richard Lemarchand, and I'm lead game designer at a studio called Naughty Dog here in Santa Monica in Los Angeles. And we make a series of action-adventure games called Uncharted, which follow the adventures of this modern-day treasure hunter called Nathan Drake. Here's the first one that we made. We released the second game in the series, Uncharted 2, Among Thieves, on the PlayStation 3 last autumn. And I'm happy to say it's been a huge success for us, and we won lots of lovely awards, including 4 BAFTAs that we were delighted and grateful to receive earlier this year. And so the thesis that I want to present you with today in my 5 minutes is that we currently have an enormous opportunity to transform both the performing arts and what we today call video games. But that to do so, based on the experiences that we've had at Naughty Dog making Uncharted, learning how to work well with actors, that was our experience, that we as performers and game developers and associated creative technologists have to learn a lot more about each other's skills and how to play nicely together. So the Uncharted games are what we call cinematic action games, and the gameplay in our games is kind of a frothy admixture of exploration and puzzle solving and shoot-em-uppery. And we mash that stuff together with a style of presentation that draws very heavily on the action-adventure movies that we all grew up enjoying in the 80s. And also on the older tropes of pulp adventure and even romantic comedy. So our overall design goal was really to make a playable version of a really great kind of popcorn-munching summer blockbuster. So the theatre and the related dramatic arts of film and television have had a big impact, of course, on the making of Uncharted because of this emphasis that we had to put on performance and storytelling in order to make a game like ours emotionally successful for our audience. And we feel that a big part of the success of the storytelling in our game was the effort that we put into collaborating with our actors in the right ways. And 2 people who were central to that process were our creative director, Amy Hennig, and our motion capture director, Gordon Hunt. Amy is a game designer that I've worked with for well over a decade now. She's also the head writer of the project, and she masterminds our performance capture process. And when we set out to create the first game, Uncharted Drake's Fortune, we were using motion capture for the first time. Motion capture, of course, is the technology where you animate your in-game characters with data captured from actors wearing special dot-covered suits on a special stage. So Amy seized the opportunity to invent our whole process from scratch, basically, and she was keen to learn the ropes from people who already knew about crafting great performances. And Amy's been working with our motion capture director, Gordon Hunt, since the late 1990s. Gordon is a director of acting with many decades of experience working for the stage and for television and film, and even for musical theatre, which makes us think we should probably make Uncharted the musical at some point. And Gordon's collaboration with Amy has been really important for helping us raise the bar of performance quality for ourselves. Because Gordon knows from his years of experience how to set the right mood on the stage so that the actors can relax and focus on their performances. And he knows how to communicate with the actors about their work in a way that's constructive, whereas us game designers would probably get it wrong and just write them bug reports or something. So, first of all, Gordon and Amy cast the game just like you would any theatrical production, and they put out a casting call, they get people in to read sides, and then they did callbacks to make their final selections. Once we cast our main character, Nathan Drake, who's played by Nolan North, then they were able to get the other people auditioning to read opposite Nolan to see what kind of chemistry they had together. Now, in our experience, casting hardly ever happens like this in the world of video games. It's usually a much more cursory matter of selecting some actors from their demo reels. And so it's not really surprising that the characters we see in video games often aren't portrayed by actors who are particularly well suited to that character or to the other actors in the ensemble. So then, in the lead up to the motion capture shoots for each scene, Amy and Gordon would rehearse the scenes with the actors, starting out with table reads, of course, and leading up to blocking things out on the stage. And again, this is something that you would never ever do without in a theatrical production, but many game developers just skip past rehearsals altogether and send the actors a script and then into the studio pretty cold. And then once we're on the stage, we have the actors performing simultaneously and playing off each other, of course. And we capture their dialogue and their physical performances all at the same time, even though we do some ADR sessions later on if we need to. And again, this is very rare. The usual MO for game developers is to just put the actors into a voice recording studio one at a time to try and deliver their lines, but in the context of this kind of emotional vacuum. So, and then finally, all throughout the process, Amy and Gordon encourage the actors to improvise and to make creative contributions. And Amy will in fact often rewrite scenes based on ideas or suggestions from the actors, which they come up with in the moment. And she says that she thinks it's very important for someone in her position to have the courage to know when what somebody has improvised on the stage is better than what's on the printed page. So all this probably just seems like common sense to those of you who are involved in theatre or the other dramatic arts, but you'd be amazed how many game designers don't do things like this, either because they don't have the time or the energy, or they don't think it's worth the money, or they don't know how to do it, let alone that it's a good idea to do it. The good news is that I think it's an example of the fact that there are still lots of amazing opportunities for us to collaborate together in ways that simply honour the basic facts of well-established crafts like acting or performative music. And we found that when you simply juxtapose really good gameplay with great nuanced portrayals of relatable human beings that you've taken the time and the effort to create, then you get this amazing synergistic effect that people respond to very strongly. It worked really well in our case, just to put together a third-person cover-based shoot-'em-up with funny, exciting action movie tropes. And I don't think there's any reason why, if you could find the right way to do it, you couldn't put together Tetris and Beckett to some really amazing similar effect. So I guess my message for today is that those of you who are performers or musicians or storytellers or other kinds of non-games artists have a tremendous amount to teach us game developers about your craft. And in return, we'll need to ask you to learn about our craft, about why we've constructed an environment in a certain shape, or how we need you to perform something in a certain way so that we can cut your performance up into different bits and potentially put it back together in funny orders. And if we can bring people's performative skill, where they leverage the thousands of hours they've spent honing their craft into a performance that grabs and holds people's attention and touches people and communicates something to them, and if we put it together with developers' game designing skill, where the player becomes the performer, and where we can guide the player through a process of acquiring new skills and applying those skills in novel ways, and where ultimately it's the player's self-expression that turns an interactive experience into a revelatory work of art. Well, once we're all working together and speaking each other's language and collaborating at a high level, then the really interesting stuff in terms of new kinds of art form is going to start happening more and more. And so that's it. Thanks very much for listening.